everyone. Hi again. This is Ruchika, and I'm so delighted to introduce you to my friend and this amazing human being, Richard Lee. He's husband to his lovely wife, Teresa. They're actually partners on the Pure app journey. And he's dad to his crazy little Jack Russell, who he lovingly calls Biscuit. He's a career technology entrepreneur, 3 times founder, including NASDAQ IPO, in addition to the last 20 years in biophysics, from relational neuroscience, neurobiology to both clinical and contemplative practices. Richard is the CEO of Pure Talk Meditation. And today we are talking about this power. He actually reminds me to call it superpower of connection. So Richard, welcome, warm welcome. So my first question to you is like this, we have hundreds, if not thousands of followers and friends on social media. Everyone has that these days, but people are feeling more lonely than ever. That has been a topic of conversation throughout our day today. In fact, a study done by Cigna, which is a healthcare provider here in the US, showed that 73% of very heavy users of social media feel more lonely, even though they're connected with more people, compared to the light users. We know by the success of social media that we as human beings want to connect with each other. We're social beings, we want to connect with each other. And yet we find ourselves so isolated. So what then is the power of connection? Can you share more?
Ruchika, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on this meeting. And hello, everyone watching. I'm just honored. You are one of the most compassionate and wise people I've ever met. Right now, I feel a little nervous. We've been flying under the radar for about 2 years, and I haven't publicly spoken for a while, so bear with me. Yes, loneliness or felt isolation, it's crept into the young to the old, here and abroad. We know through studies it cuts off somewhere about 30–40% of life expectancy. And your great question is, what is the true superpower of human connection? And so for me, I have this philosophy I learned from my mentor. He said to me one time, he says, if someone says it better, just say what they say. So I think I want to just share what our own US Surgeon General, one of our favorite people, Vivek Murthy, just said about the power of pure connection. And I'd like to just give a quote that he said. He said, somehow we have forgotten we already have everything we need to change and heal, and that's each other. The power of human connection is extraordinary. Something that's so simple that we take for granted has this ability to heal in extraordinary ways, because it is through our relationships that we channel love, and love allows us to accept ourselves and put down the veil covering our shame. As a doctor who specializes in internal medicine, from prescribing antibiotics to medicine for blood pressure to diabetes, I have found there's nothing more powerful than love in terms of its ability to heal. There's nothing that I've written a prescription for all these years that eclipses what love can do in the face of extraordinary injury, trauma, and pain. And the most clear way that we feel love is in the context of relationships, authentic, open relationships. And finally, he says, as the US Surgeon General going around our country, meeting people from all walks of life, whether it's addiction or obesity, whether it was depression or anxiety, I realized that the root of these were a lack of human connection. It was so obviously simple, right there under our noses, end quote. Our own US Surgeon General, Vivek Murthy. So that is the power of human connection. And if we just stopped here, we wouldn't have a revolution, because everybody on here is pretty learned and have heard these, not only from Vivek, but from so many people. And I think I could inject one thing to maybe get us one step closer to a revolution, in the sense of removing felt isolation and all the things that go with it, is that we are feeling felt isolation more and more because we are lacking the practice and a place for it. Specifically, I'll give you an example. Our own Dr. Doty, James Doty from Stanford, Sikri, He was interviewing Dr. Dean Ornish, the pioneer of preventative medicine, and Dean was saying the same thing as Dr. Murphy was saying. But when Dean was done, he was talking about we need to have daily connection. This is the foundation of it all. And Dr. Doty was so smart, packed room at Stanford. He said, how many of you guys talk this way, authentically and openly? And the entire packed room, Ruchika, no one raised their hand. He goes, and then Dr. Doty says, is there anybody in this room that talks openly and purely connected? And no one raised their hand. And that really is what's going on with us. We are lacking the place and practice and people. And I want to, and to me, it's kind of like, you know, somebody getting on the stage and saying, hey, you know, private jet travel is incredible, whether you're going to Paris, Texas, or Paris, France. And we all get motivated and we get so excited. But does that really change my life? No. But what if that person gave us a private jet along with a crew, along with all the dollars to afford it? Now we have a revolution, right? And I think our world is missing that system and the whole crew.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. So the power of practicing the human connection, and our friend Carson is asking the question. So this is why you've created Pure. So tell us, what is Pure? What does it do?
Oh, thank you. Pure is the world's first talk meditation app, the pure connection practice of the wholehearted for their best inner and outer life at a cost and speed and no other methods can match. And I developed Pure to conquer what we see as the world's greatest crises right now. And I'm sure everybody's been reading about trauma. We're in the age of trauma, and that's good. It's good that people are getting more trauma informed. But what a lot of people are not understanding about trauma is that our worst trauma is not the capital T trauma, but it's the small trauma. It's what we call relational emotional deprivation trauma that the data tells me that 99% of us are suffering every day. It's again, the lack of that connection, the lack of ability to even get in contact with what we're feeling inside and how to speak it to others and have a safe environment where others don't judge us and try to fix us. And it sounds like Dr. Murthy says, is so simple, and yet it's profound, the power. I want folks to understand that we call it red trauma, emotional deprivation trauma, is kind of like this. Let me just kind of show our folks. So this is the way we're supposed to live. Our biosystems are designed to flourish and have, wonderful, joy and love and connectedness and all these amazing physiological and neurological things, right? And to live in this state, we know it's possible because if you look at the world's longest longitudinal studies, the top 3, Harvard, Blue Zones, Australia, these folks live to 100 plus. They suffer a tiny fraction of all the sicknesses and unwellnesses that we do. Alzheimer's nearly non-existent. So we know these zones are possible. We can live this way. The challenge is when we are lacking daily relational, emotional assets. This is how we become. This is red trauma, my friends. Okay. And you say, well, these are just botanical examples. No, the biological system is very much like this. And how did I get this like this? All I had to do was to deprive it of 2 things, sunshine and water. That's it. And it changes everything. And the human being is the same way. We need to have a deep understanding of ourselves and feeling and interoception skills. What am I feeling in my body and skin and bladder and my heart? And then be able to have that languaging and speaking it to the right people. And when that happens, it is profound, the changes. And so I'm all for technology, but as you can probably see, I'm all for human technology.
Thank you for sharing that very visual example with us, Richard. So tell us a little bit about you and your background and what inspired you to create this practice and platform. And I'd love to talk about the real practice as well that you introduce in Pure. So, but tell us what inspired you to create the practice first.
Oh, thank you. Charlie just says something really powerful. He said, traumatize people, traumatize people. And that's my biggest fear. That's what's happening on a mass scale. When someone's hurt, what happens is, and I'll share with my story. When I used to be have a lot of unhealed and unreleased trauma, hurt people, and I became a contagion for cruelty, for meanness, from all these things. So yes, on the outside, I had these, quote, successful companies, but inside and also within my inner circle, I was very, very much like this deprived plant. And so Charlie makes a great point. And so what's happening is we're moving into a point, if we all don't get together and create this revolution together, and instead of only depending on technology, but depend more on the right people and each other, we're going to implode. And it's not just me saying it. We are spending trillions of dollars on sick care and unwellness and all of these things, psychomedical, and we're not getting better. And until you deal with the relational emotional deprivation, we're just going to keep spouting out the symptoms of the trauma. And so how I founded Pure was just sheer desperation. I grew up in a household. I was as much as I can piece together. I'm an orphan, and my father was a addicted alcoholic gambler and lost her home. He was also abusive, and my mother fled to America, and this was Taiwan, and I was given up to an orphanage, and where I was sexually, physically, and emotionally abused. And around 8, I was brought here, and unfortunately, my mother was a highly traumatized person, and so she was chronically depressed, suicidal, and pretty sociopathic. And I grew up in a household where I would literally get beat up and slapped and shamed by showing any type of feeling or emotion. And so you can imagine, by 18, I was not doing very well in a psychological and physiological level. And so if I were to take in the test of the CDC ACEs trauma quiz, I would have ranked level 10, which is the highest. And Pure, we expound upon that even more fine-tuned. I would have hit level 20. So on a CDC scale, there's not even much data after level 6, because most level 6 die before we're 40. And past 8, 9, 10, 20 is, I've never met a level 20. And so I went through all of the, you can imagine the self-help, the psychomedical, I mean, you name it. And I could not use those methods like 9 in 10 people do. Today, psychomedical has about if you add in the stigma rate and the premature termination rate, psychomedical practices have about a 95% dropout rate within 30 days, adding in the premature termination about 1 month. And I tried solo meditation back then, but like a lot of people today, about 95% of the people, as you know, according to the Journal of Internet Medical Research, about 95% of people drop out of solo meditation within the first 30 days too. And so I kept failing. At the time, I didn't have all this data, and I thought it was me. It was adding trauma on top of my already trauma. I already thought I was a piece of, and I can't even do these things. Why can't I do these things? And so after my third company went public, about a year later, with quote everything, I tried to take my life, and I was 36. And one of my childhood friends, I didn't have that many back then, Andrea, she's watching. Hi, Andrea. And she didn't know, but she called me, and it interrupted my pattern. I had a 9mm to my head, and that was a wake-up call. And I said, if current methods isn't working, I got to figure this out. I have to figure it out. So that's how I started the journey. It wasn't any altruism to try to save the world. It was just really trying to just save myself. And I started at the foundation. I'm a critical thinker, so start out at the origin and the epidemiology, started understanding how our genetics work, what opens up our genetics, epigenetics, all these things, and had to learn about 10 sciences to just understand the complete, and then started practicing contemplative practices. And it was just amazing how the big aha moment after all of this came when I had a weekly group of CEOs and entrepreneurs that we would meet once a week to try to talk our challenges out. And over time, I kept seeing that we were, after each meeting, we say, okay, call each other. And guess what? No one will call each other. And so I said, well, I got to figure something. I got to figure out a framework where we'll make that call. Can't make it long. And off we go. And sure enough, problems started dropping because the challenge is always between groups, all the big challenges in life. And people started adopting it. And pretty soon, to my shock, it became more powerful than the 1 hour, 2 hour meetings every day. And we didn't understand back then in neuroscience like we do today that the brain works better in microdosing therapeutics, is little bits of connection every day, like how we eat or like how we exercise. And everybody just started changing. Everybody started become like this. Everybody started firing their psychotherapists. And by the way, I'm not against psychotherapists. I have some incredible friends. In fact, one of my friends, John Townsend, is the father of the Boundary series. And John says pure is just a miracle. And then pretty soon I met my wife, and she had all these, chronic problems, and she started using it. They all went away within months. And then today, started Pure. And Pure has compared to a 5% dropout rate of the standard psychotherapy and solo meditation, which is wonderful. Again, I have friends who are wonderful practitioners of those practices. But Pure has about a 93% stickiness rate. It's unheard of. We didn't even believe it. And it's been, this, Ruchika, it's been this way for 2-3 years. No one leaves Pure, literally. Very, very high retention, about 10, 12 times better retention the first 30 days. And over 1 year, about 30 times better retention, about 93%. And you can see this in the Stanford Medical Study. You can see this in the world's largest neuroscience study for meditative practices, where they compared Pure or compassion dyad, same thing, to standard meditation. The engagement rate is just massive. So said differently, if people are using a practice and they're feeling that connectedness, it just works.
Mm-hmm. Richard, I couldn't help but feel my heartbeat went up, even though I've heard your story before as you started sharing it with us. So thank you for your vulnerability and showing up fully to all our amazing friends here with us in the conference today, and also sharing how this works and has helped, and thank you, Andrea, wherever you are in the audience, for reaching out to Richard at the right time and giving him that perspective. So I think we're just about out of time, Richard. We have maybe just 1 minute. Do you want to just do a compassionate inquiry question with me, just so people can get a taste of how Pure works?
Sure. Let's try that.
Okay.
And if I may just add one more, is at level 20, we have dysfunctions that in the current psychomedical book that says unhealable. Part of it is it would be an inability to attach, or aka inability to love. And I just want to shout out to my amazing wife right now. That Pure freed me to love and to be loved. And if anybody, I don't care what level trauma you're suffering, if you do this practice or model a practice like this, there's nothing. You can turn your life into this in a matter of just weeks and months. Your system is so dynamic. It's staggering. And Teresa and Ruchika was saying one day we'll have an hour, we can go through your epigenetics and your genetic. I mean, the human technology is just so amazing. So I just want to share that with everybody. So do we have time to do a compassionate question?
Annie, do we need to go to the next call, the next session?
Yeah, do we have
Yes,
time?
I think so. I think we're out of time, Richard. So maybe we wrap up here. And where can people find out more about Pure App?
Thank you, Ruchika. Pure.com, Puur.com. And I recommend everybody to take the trauma quiz test. Selena Gomez just said, gosh, by knowing what she was going through, it really was just really helpful. Self-awareness begins it. And you don't have to feel shame because everybody now has suffered trauma, everybody. So just become aware, okay? Much love, everybody. Love you, Ruchika, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, sign up for Pure for the full experience. Charlie, sorry to disappoint you, but do a full Pure with Richard. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.